Hello, welcome to the Story Darlings podcast. This is Sandra.
And I'm Tara.
What do we have going on today, Tara?
Today we are discussing a documentary on Netflix. The documentary is called American Murder, The Family Next Door. And it details, well, I'm not going to get into spoilers, but a family next door. One that seems like it's the quintessential American family, and then something happens. And, you know, it's kind of a downer of a documentary, but we'll get into that later. Sandra, how have you been?
Oh, I've been trucking along. I'm still there. I don't know. I've been struggling. I'm still having issues like reading, really. So I'm like behind on all kinds of crap, but I've pretty much just been listening to music right now. So Fozia is an artist that I've been listening to, and she's kind of in the same vein as like Adele. So she has like those heartbreak ballad type songs, but it's a younger sound, and she has so much vocal talent. Like it's mind blowing, but she has great music. And then an artist named James Young. Really good lyrics, really good sound too. So I've just kind of been playing that on repeat and not doing much. What about you?
Sometimes you need to not do very much. I just finished a book called Well Played. It's by Vi Keeland, which I love Vi Keeland. She does a little more risky, like love stories, but it's great. And it was just a great feel-good book. I loved it. So recommend it.
I'm trying to keep myself from like pulling a David and saying like
hashtags. Yeah, I know, but I like those books, so shush.
I know. Okay, mind out of that area now. Sweet and sours.
Yeah, mind out of the gutter, Sandra. Mind out of the gutter.
Whose mind needs to get out of the gutter here?
Hey, I can handle the books. Right?
I can't wait until the Kissing Booth episode comes out.
Guys, if you have not already listened to the Kissing Booth episode, which was released last week, that would definitely be something you need to listen to get this interaction, because Sandra is giving me crap about something that happened in that episode. So,
and we should all give Tara, just collectively give her crap about that episode.
No, we should not.
Join me.
But I have enough. David, who was our guest star on that, and Sandra have been giving me crap for like 3 weeks now about this. So
it will never die.
If they have any say in it, it will never die. But so my sweet this week, and I'm looking at my notes as I'm saying this, but my sweet is I felt very smart this week. I have a couple of student workers in my office, and they were having trouble with their homework, and I was like, here's how you do it. And I was able to help them. And it's been a little while since I took some of these classes, just a minute. But one of their professors came up to them and they're like, hey, how'd you get this answer? Like, how'd you figure this out? And she was like, well, like Tara in my office where I, work helped me. And he was like, you should get her to help more often because you're the only student in the class that got this right. And so it just made me feel so good. I'm like, yeah, I'm smart. Mm-hmm. And as I was telling that student worker that I was going to call her out on tonight's episode, she was sitting with another one, and the other one let me know that I helped her with her chemistry homework not too long ago as well. And so I felt very smart today. It was great. It was great
Not
timing.
Just pretty smart.
Really smart. Like
really smart. Actually smart.
Yeah, actually.
That's a good sweet.
Yeah, and it was just nice. I remembered something from college. Woo!
That's always encouraging.
Yeah, it is. My sour, though, is I exercised for like the first time in a long time on Monday, and I am still sore. I did not exercise that much that I feel good about still being sore. So
That's a sweet. I love that sore feeling.
I don't. I don't like the not being able to sit down without pain. Like or Justin made fun of me the other day because we were going into Staples and this little old couple got out of their car and were like hobbling in and I got out of my car and I was hobbling and he's like, it's just so cute with you and the old people hobbling in. And I'm like,
You're like the
shut it.
same.
Yeah.
That's
He's like,
funny.
you were both going really slow. And then my eye doctor low-key called me old today. She was like, you might not be the best candidate for LASIK because if you get it, you're probably going to go back into readers here soon. I'm like, ouch.
Wait, I don't okay, my mom just had one eye done. She's gonna go
Uh-huh.
back and get the other eye done. Sorry, you're supposed to wait until you're in your 60s to do it for it to stay?
No, she said younger. Like you should be younger
Okay.
because if you do it when you're older, your eyes are then going to get worse in the nearsighted. And what they fixed was your farsighted. And so like I would then need readers again
Hmm.
sooner to be able to see near. And so she's like, you're not going to be able to be out of glasses for very long. And I'm like, well, I think you just low-key called me old, but that's okay.
I love these moments with you.
I know.
You're always having like random interactions with people that you don't know.
I'm like, thanks. I'm not that old. You can see my age in that little thing. Do some math.
Okay, yeah, I'll take that as a sour.
What about you?
What are we starting with first for me? Sour? Okay.
Sour? Yeah, because you have
Oh
to
my
like
God.
keep it upbeat a little bit at the end.
Yeah. So both of mine are work related because it's basically my life besides momming. It's like mom work. That's all I do. So my sour is, at the time that we're recording this, Halloween weekend just finished up. And just for some context on my job, so I work at a sexual assault center, and obviously Halloween's a really crazy weekend, and every Monday I listen in on staff meetings where they talk, they don't say any personal information about clients who come in, but they do share just details and accounts of what happened to clients, just so that anybody else in the office, if someone is not at the desk, the hotline desk, and someone comes in, that everyone knows what's going on with everyone at any given point. And it was just one of those. I mean, I was listening to this call and they were describing 5 clinics that came in over the weekend, which is like way more than we have seen so far just for a weekend. And they were just like, it made me just lose any faith in humanity. Just the particular cases that were talked about, it was just like so disturbing and disgusting. And yeah, mm, it was just hard to listen to. So I everyone who answers hotlines like crisis hotlines or are advocates that work in places like this and handle this kind of content with people on a daily basis, I have the utmost respect for them, like for sure. So that's my sour. It's just it didn't really restore a lot of faith in people. And my positive, what were you gonna say?
I was just going to say this documentary did not restore my faith in people either. So,
Yeah, so people on YouTube watching this, Tara looks all gorgeous, and I'm just like, I've been sitting here just working in like sweatpants and a hoodie all day long. I have no makeup on. I've been crying watching this damn documentary and hating everything after watching it. Anyway, that could be a sweet for you. I complimented you. Yeah, so that was my sour. Sweet, work related. Successfully launched the new website for our center. I'm so proud of it. It still has a lot more work to go, but more than that, so I got to talk to my first donor yesterday, and she was a client of the center. So she was an assault
mhm.
survivor last year. and she has never forgotten her experience there, had nothing to say about the team's end-to-end treatment of the entire process. And so she gave a really generous donation. It came through. I called her within like 5 minutes and just kind of got her story. And it was one of those moments that kind of made up for all the sour shit that you have to deal with. Like it was kind of that happy ending. And she was telling me how she had two small children and she's in a place
Oh,
now where she can give back and help, by giving money and stuff. So it just made me feel really good and the team feel really good. And so it just makes it worthwhile, you know?
yeah. It's a happy ending, the like
Mm-hmm.
full circle to see the help
Yeah.
that you're giving people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was good. That's a really good one. So I guess we start with non-spoilery synopsis.
This documentary follows the life of Shanann Watts, Chris Watts, and their two children, Cece and Bella. Um, and it starts out, and I guess there's some spoilers in all of it, but it starts out that Shanann, Cece, and Bella are missing and the search for them. Then it kind of details some of their life leading up to them going missing. And then we get into some spoilers as to what happened to them.
Yeah, this was such a disturbing documentary. I wasn't expecting the end to happen like it did. I feel like we don't normally get closure. Like that's what
Mhm.
happened type
We
of
get
things in
kind of an
documentaries.
idea
Yeah,
sometimes.
that's what shocked me about this documentary is I wasn't expecting to get the for sure. Like it's always kind of gray, but this was very black and white.
And usually in these types of documentaries, you definitely don't get to see the punishment. It's always, alleged. You don't get to see the end result of everything going through. And I think that's the hard part for me in some of them is not knowing, did they get the punishment they deserved for what
Yeah.
they did?
It's kind of like the Making a Murderer with Stephen Avery and that poor kid that's locked up.
Yeah, yeah. You just don't know that what you think should have happened happened.
Yeah.
And another thing that, I mean, not to diminish this story, but another thing that I noticed as I was watching this is how many of these types of documentaries have you seen for middle class white people, but not lower class or, minorities in any
Yeah.
sense? The last one that I think I've seen was Vanessa Guillen,
Mm-hmm.
Fort Hood.
Yeah.
Before that, I don't know that I can name any others that were minorities or lower class
No.
people. And so I think that that's just like our society. Like we care about the middle class white people.
It's missing white woman syndrome. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's like the term for it. We saw it in the Gabby Petito case when she was
Mm-hmm.
missing. And it's like how
Like you
many
see
girls,
everything
Native
on
American
them.
girls. Yeah. Yeah.
How many
It's
Native
sad.
Americans, how many like trans. There are a lot of women and men and they go missing and you just don't hear anything about them unless you're a part of that inner circle. You hear a lot about the missing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like even how what they called Gabby Petito, they kept referring to her as America's daughter. It's like, no, no, no. She is not representative of, every
Everybody.
daughter in this country.
I do think that that helps get crime solved. So I wish we could do that for every single missing person, every single, thing. It'd be much better. But yeah, I found that very, very disheartening that there's that. And not to diminish that there does need to be like, an outcry and that this isn't important. And I think this one was even more so because it involved little kids too.
Yes.
That hit me hard too. It's disheartening all around that this happened, but then also that we as a society think more highly of the white middle class woman than we do others.
I mean, with this case that we're talking about, like you said, it did have the 3 and 4-year-old daughters that were involved. It was just a horrible situation all around.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Netflix has done an increasingly good job of featuring shows and movies and things from other cultures and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
ethnic backgrounds and things like that. They've made a big effort to do that in recent years, but Yeah, but like this one, I mean, it's called The Family Next Door, and it's because of that type of stereotype. And literally, the different observations that you can see in watching this documentary with who this family is. I mean, there's like nothing spectacular about any of it. It's just a seemingly regular husband and wife and kids living in suburbia with their usual spats and usual suspicions and that type of thing. So why don't we start by like breaking down, maybe just kind of introing each character and kind of like what their personality is like type of thing. Yeah.
The documentary follows, like Sandra mentioned, a family. The wife, Shanann Watts, and her husband, Chris Watts. And I don't I don't really know how to describe either one of those. I think that they were both slightly narcissistic.
Yes.
And I hate saying something bad about somebody who is kind of like speaking ill, but I think that they were both slightly narcissistic. And I have something else to say about that later. But and then their two children, Bella and Cece, who are just adorable little girls. And Sandra gave away a little bit of a spoiler there, but somebody ends up murdered uh, in this, which hopefully you got out of the title of the documentary. But somebody ends up murdered, and it starts out following Shanann and the two girls who went missing. And then they kind of go into the search for them and start talking to Chris about what their life was like before they went missing and maybe some reasons into why they went missing. And I don't know. I was thinking the whole time, because there's a difference between a sociopath and a psychopath. A lot of times they get interchanged and things like that, but I couldn't figure out like what I thought, which I'm not a professional of any means on this, but like I was trying to figure out what I thought Chris was, and I couldn't figure it out. He had qualities of both. I think he knew murder was wrong, but he did it anyway. He was charming. And so I think he got away with a lot of stuff probably before this because he was a handsome, charming guy.
Yeah. First red flag. I mean, let's look at way in the beginning how he even met Shanann. He was persistent.
Yeah.
He was stalking. Stalking is such a strong word, but I mean, he was like very persistent, wouldn't take no as an answer, and was just like forcing his way through on social media, contacting her, just getting her to agree to see him. You know what I mean? And she had just gone through another terrible relationship that she said, in her words, literally took everything from her, like out of her. And so she was in a place, like a mental state, very vulnerable, recovering from a hard thing like that, and picking herself back up, working her ass off to get that house, which that's, maybe you can clarify some things for me in that show, because it shows her working her ass off for, Thrive or whatever this company was. And she makes enough to like build her own house. But in the documentary, like the house where she goes missing with the girls, it's like a different house and it's owned by her parents or something.
No, so the house that she built, I think, was in South Carolina where she used to live, but they had recently, like within a year or so, moved to Denver, Colorado. So they lived in Denver when they went missing, but her parents didn't own the house, which is why the police could not go in without Chris's permission, because they had to have the permission of the home owner. And so that's the reason they could not go in the house without him saying, yeah, you can come on in, let's look for him.
Yeah.
Even though her mom was on the phone and gave the friend permission to go in her house. But the police had to legally be invited in by the homeowner, or anything that they got from the scene would be inadmissible in court.
I felt like right from the get-go, I mean, Shanann had such a strong network of close friends around her that the minute, the hour that something was wrong, like, oh, she should have reported back from this doctor appointment by now. Like, they were so in tune with her schedule and like everything that she was going through that they didn't miss a beat. They started calling the cops, figuring that shit out like ASAP.
I feel like that's that's kind of me and you, because like that time where you didn't answer me for a little while, I'm like, should I send the cops, Sandra? Like, are you okay? What's going on? Yeah, she had at least a couple really, really close
Yeah,
friends that
and they
knew kind
weren't
of
just
what her
like,
life was.
yeah, and they weren't just like shitting all over, what was his name? Chris. They weren't just shitting all over him. Like
Hmm.
they were trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, oh, well, have you talked to him before they started just like, okay, whatever. So let's get into spoilers.
He's an
Yes,
asshole.
he's a fucking asshole and he should burn in hell.
Yeah, yeah. That's the official Story Darlings take on Chris
Yep,
Watts.
thank you. That is all. No, the minute they said he worked on an oil rig, I was like, that motherfucker. I knew it was gonna come around to the damn oil rig.
See, and the thing that I like kept catching myself doing, because not to speak ill of Shanann, but like she didn't seem like the best person to be in a relationship with. She seemed slightly like, I don't want to say needy, but like there were some times when I'm like, okay, yeah, I'd probably do that, but I'd also know that like would irritate the other person. Like there was a point where she's like, yeah, and he's going to clean up the dishes or whatever. And there were some times where what she was saying, what she was doing, I'm like, that's probably not like the healthiest thing in the world. But I might have had a little bit of sympathy for him going through a divorce,
Yeah.
because it seemed like there for a minute he was afraid that he would lose custody of the kids and not be able to see them. And so the American justice system does side with women like 90% of the time. And so I could see that if you were going through a divorce, I could feel slight sympathy for him. Okay? He doesn't necessarily need to lose the kids because he doesn't love his wife anymore. Fine. But that's not what this turned into, and so he lost all, like every shred of my sympathy completely when that's not what this turned into. Like, I don't know. I just don't understand people. If you don't want to be married anymore, don't be. It's a freaking piece of paper. Like, move on, relationship over,
Exactly.
get a divorce, whatever. Like, yeah, just end the marriage. Like, I don't get people who murder their spouse. Like, there's a different way out of this. And we're not even talking about the other side of this story, but just him and Shanann. Like, if you wanted out, get out.
Yeah. They they definitely, both of them had red flags like from the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, and you saw Shanann's kind of obsession with having to document everything on her phone. Like
Everything.
she everything. And he even makes a sideways comment like, that phone was her lifeline. And he kind of said
Mm-hmm.
it like under his breath, like he was very resentful about that. So they had been, what, 8 years or something. I don't know if that's how long their marriage was or how long they'd been together total, but like they had been together several years. You could tell that, I mean, things can get stale after several years, but like she had no business jumping into a relationship that serious with him simply because the way she interacted with Chris, she was not healed from everything she experienced before. It made her, I think it helped make her needier. Like she was
Yeah,
very
clingier.
suspicious and clingier and constantly like seeking um that affirmation and stuff from him constantly.
Yeah. And to her defense there, like there was a real reason why she should have
Yes.
been
Trust your gut, ladies.
suspicious. So to her defense, like maybe she was being clingier. We only have what was in the documentary. We don't have the full story. We don't have the full picture of everything that happened in their relationship. Maybe that was a clingy side because she felt like something was going down. And so she needed to be clingier to figure out what was going on for sure. So I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt too, but there were certain times when I'm like, while I might do that, so I'm not calling her out completely, it's still not the healthiest of things
Yeah.
to be in a relationship with. And she, to your point, she was also just got diagnosed with lupus and trying to get over
Mm-hmm.
the medical side of her health issues at the time. So she had a double whammy of just getting out of a relationship and a serious medical condition.
Yeah, which I mean, the medical condition, she already had this horrible car accident, where they
Hmm.
mentioned she had a scar on her head. Like, okay, so head damage, like, who knows what kind of
And she had a
impact.
history of passing out because of it.
Yeah. So it's just a combination of things there. And then him, I mean, like I said, from the get-go, he just forced his way into her life. Like when he met her, she was like recovering from the other relationship. She looked like physically, she was attractive. She looked really good. She was working hard and making something of her life. And he was kind of like this frumpy guy that just, he was like night and day, like his physique from when we see him
Hmm.
toward the end, like toward the end of the documentary. I mean, he's just like working out constantly. The guy's like ripped his like sculpted muscles. Just yeah. But when we meet him, like their wedding day, he's just like, just a regular guy with
Slightly overweight.
yeah, 245, I think that's how much he said he weighed or something.
Yeah.
But you have these two people coming together, and it's hard for me to say this, but it's like sometimes when you get two people in a relationship, like crazy shit can happen. And it's like I've seen this with my sister in the types of relationships. There's some people that bring out a part of you that you didn't know existed or that you don't want to be a part of you. Like there are some people that just kind of have that reaction with you. And I think that was the case with them, with whatever his family upbringing and his relationship experiences, and then her experiences and her family. Like, who knows how all that stuff, and once they got together, how it all just kind of unraveled. Like, it was just a disaster.
And you brought up his family, and dear Lord, I wanted to punch his family in the face so much. Like, so much. Because, like, it started out at their wedding. Like, his family refused to go because they didn't like her, like, didn't think she was good enough for him. And, like, dude, if your son picked her, then sit your ass down. You
Yeah,
have no
support
opinion in
him.
this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But then the dad in the interrogation room, like, you can tell me, you can tell me.
I got
And as
chills.
far as like those texts that had just been sent about his mom and their daughter, and basically the mom brought in things, their daughter had a severe nut allergy, and their mom was, I don't know if she was going to feed the kid this or if like she wasn't. That's still kind of like an iffy subject in my mind. But she brought in things with nuts in them around the kids when they were eating. So, like, who does that? That's your grandchild. You know that if she were to, like, she's 2 or 3 at the time, like if she were to not know that that's something she couldn't have and accidentally eat it, it could kill her. Like, why are you doing that? Like, that's just ridiculously dumb. So stop it.
Yep.
And then to like act like that was Shanann's fault for being pissed. Like, sorry, no. Any mother who cares at all about their kid is going to care that you put them in danger.
Yeah, she had every right to be
Okay.
pissed off and confront them
She
about
had
it.
every right to be pissed. And then the dad's like, oh, she's just blowing it out of. So, like, whatever. Lost all faith in that dad. But anyway, so back to the interrogation, he goes in and he's like patting him on the back. He's like, it's okay. It's okay. And Chris basically confesses to him. And the dad's like, okay.
He doesn't
Like,
bat an eye.
seriously? No, he doesn't. Like, there's no reaction. We get to the like sentencing phase of the trial, and his mom is like, I don't understand what happened, but we still love you and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, I do. I get it. You love
That's
your
your
child. You'll
baby that
support
no
them.
one's good enough for in her
Yeah,
mind.
but like, seriously, everybody's good enough for this asshole. But anyway, but those were your grandbabies too. Like, but obviously she didn't give a shit about her grandbabies because she was about to like kill one of them because she wanted to act like she knew better than everybody else. So I wanted to punch them so much throughout this. I'm like, you
Yeah,
are worthless pieces of trash, and no wonder he came out of you.
Yeah, I wrote down the parents like in my notes just because I can't imagine growing up in a household with people like them. And it just seemed like a very, very unhealthy relationship. And I don't know, maybe they do have some kind of personality problem because that's not normal. Like how they're reacting to anything. Like they just refuse to face reality. Um, and I mean, I know that kind of thing can be inherited
Refused to.
too. So it's like there had to have been like some kind of impact from that with Chris's personality too.
There was just a refusal of
Yeah.
accountability. Like, I don't know. I also think sometimes like there's an affluence defense in criminal justice, which is basically the person had never been taught that there was a consequence for their
Mm-hmm.
actions. And so I wonder if some of that
Yes, a
is in
hundred
this. Like
percent.
Chris had never been taught and his parents had never been taught because they were
Mm-hmm.
wealthier. And so like some of that, which
And
I mean, it's
Shanann's
not
family was
excusing his
not.
behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wonder if they just thought, well, we're richer, so like we don't have to face
Yeah.
these consequences. Like we can kind of get our way out of it.
Yeah.
Which
Y'all fucked up
I
your
completely
son.
hate.
It's
It's
just
it's one of those things that just irks me
yeah.
so bad that people think that, you know, if I have money, I can do what I want and it doesn't matter how I affect other
Yeah.
people. Like my biggest thing is treat people like they're
Yeah.
people, like they're human
Yeah.
beings and they matter.
I mean, so there were those flags with Chris's, family and how he started dating Shanann in the first place. Just that was just very abnormal. But then there was like Shanann, who, like we talked about, she was just like glued to her phone, had to document everything. It's like she was super insecure and wanted to like present this part of her that was like successful and perfect, great mom, amazing wife. And but then you have this side of her where she is very toxic. Some of the messages that she is sending Chris, it's just like, you know, grow some balls, like be a man, just like making these very emasculating kind of comments toward him constantly, just like nagging them into him like years and years of this. I can't imagine what kind of psychological effect that had on him either. Again, not excusing she did not get
Especially
asked to get murdered. Not yeah.
especially if he'd never like had
Yes.
that before. Like everybody had bent over backwards for him and then now she's like
Yep.
calling him out and that had to have been a shock to
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. And then as this documentary unfolds, we quickly learned that she was fucking pregnant with a baby boy,
Mm-hmm.
Nico. Like they already picked out a name. And what did you think of that scene where she's recording breaking the news to Chris?
Okay, that had to have been staged. Like his reaction was just like, oh, okay, like I knew this already. Like he wasn't a great actor. You know what I'm saying? Like I think it was very staged. Again, like you said, she liked to film and put on this perfect like, so I think that that was a staged thing, but yeah, there's a scene later where like he tells her that he doesn't love her after they slept together. And I'm like, dude, why are you sleeping with her if you don't love her?
Allegedly
Like,
slept with her
come on. Well, he says that they did, but like if you say that you did, then like in your head you think that this is okay,
or helps him
which is just
somehow.
very like twisted to me that like you think it's normal to sleep with somebody right before you tell them that like you don't love them
Yeah.
and you want to
That's why
split
I
up.
doubt that I don't know. I doubt that he slept with her simply because he had completely blocked her out sexually after he started dating this Nicole. Like he wanted nothing to do with her sexually at all. She couldn't like grovel at his feet enough to get him to sleep with her. And I think in his mind that telling the police in his story of, yes, I slept with her, he was hoping
meant we
that
were
I
okay.
cared about her and had like this emotional connection with her, and that's why I slept with her to make himself look better. So that's like that very scheming personality coming out because I really don't think he slept with
Hmm.
her. I think he just said that to make himself look better.
In my eyes, it did not, but I get where you're coming from. Like, but I don't get, I don't get how you can be intimate with somebody and then be like, but by the way, I don't love you and I want to split up. Like,
Yeah. This is what
that's
angered
ridiculous.
me. Like so many things angered me, but this was like
Yeah.
another thing that just like fucking hit so hard and pissed me off like so much was the fact that he met her, he pursued her, wouldn't accept no as an answer in, getting her to date him. And she was like the prime of her life. Like she was looking good,
Hmm.
she was working hard, she had no children, and she finally opened up to him after her other shitty relationship. And so he pursued her with his frumpy ass. And then the moment she's like pregnant with their third kid and she's like heavier set now, like she's carrying more weight and he just doesn't find her attractive anymore. He's not having sex with her. Now he has like this woman on the side that he works with at the oil rig, Nicole, who they show footage of him like taking pictures of her and she's like standing there posed with like her bra on and her flat stomach and she doesn't have any kids. Like he just like pieced out, jumped ship, and like went to some hot piece of ass on the side and just like took the best parts of her that were just her, when it was before her being a
Hmm.
mom, and then just threw her away. Like that pissed
Yeah.
me off.
There's no words for like him. I'm sorry. But
Just
he just he didn't bother to make himself better for her. Like
no.
you see him, like he started working out when he like wanted to get a
Yeah,
new
when this
girl.
girl started. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then he started looking better and whatever. And so he didn't even want to give her like his best at any point in their relationship, even when he was pursuing her, which is annoying to me. Like, if
Yeah.
you're pursuing somebody or you're trying to get them, like, do your best.
Yeah. Put your best foot forward. Yeah.
There may have been other things going on too in this whole decision making. So, again, we only have the documentary to go on, but it's just he irritated me. And I so wanted it to be something else because you see all of those little videos of him and his kids, and he seemed being the operative word there, like such a good dad, you know?
Yes. Oh
Like
my God.
you get to feeling for him like, okay, maybe this is something other than what I went into this thinking was going to happen. Maybe he did love his family. Maybe, the way he's interacting with these kids and the like, what got me is that little song that his
Oh
daughter
yeah,
sang
the hero
about daddy
song.
being her hero because he protects her and like helps her grow up. And so you just wanted it so bad to have not been him. Because imagine what those little kids were
That
thinking.
made me sick. Like, that made me
Like,
sick
this is the
how he
person
did
that is
them.
supposed to be protecting them. And so spoilers here, he killed all of them. He admitted to it and all of that. But that's bad enough. But what got me is he put their mother's body in the truck with them. Like in the floorboard where they were sitting, he put their mother's body after he killed her. And when they asked his mommy, okay, he's like, yeah, she will be, or something similar.
Yeah, she's fine.
And that was it. And he made a comment about like I took notes on this, but like they went to sleep and then were like holding each other.
Holding each other.
And I'm like, dude, they were probably afraid. They probably knew their mommy wasn't okay. And they probably had a sense of what was going to come. And they were trying to protect each other. And you're just sitting here, the person who is supposed to protect them the most. For some reason, you wanted to get rid of your entire family so that you could live your life how you wanted to live your life.
Yeah, I wanted to vomit. at how he killed Bella and Cece. I mean, didn't he toss their like blankies over their head and just shove them in? Like he couldn't even bring himself to like touch them, like kill them with his own hands. He had to like he
Let them
hide their
suffer.
face and shove them into an oil tank.
Yeah, he let them, the poor little babies, suffer. And again, not saying that Shanann deserved it either, but I think it takes a special kind of a sicko to kill your own goddamn kids, or any kid for that matter. Like, especially your kid though, because they think you are there to protect them, and you are there to protect them.
Yeah.
And so it's a special kind of sicko to kill them. It's a special kind of sicko to kill your spouse too, but in my head, that's a different kind of a, like, your spouse doesn't look to you for any kind of a protection besides just
Kids are
being
helpless.
a
Kids are
companion.
kids are so small. Yeah. They can't protect
They can't
themselves.
protect themselves, whereas a spouse, likely can.
You
They can make
fight.
choices to
Yeah.
protect themselves. But like, this kid thought that he was going to protect them, so they didn't fight. He was their hero, their person that protected them. And so that got me. Like, again, he's a fucking asshole who deserves to rot in hell, and that's official take on this. I can't imagine ever being okay with killing your own kid,
I mean,
or
he
any
had so
kid
much
for
time
that
to think
matter.
about it. Yeah. He just had so much time to think this
He had
over.
so much time to not. Like, again, like I said, he seemed like he was concerned that he was going to lose custody of the kids. If you cared so much about custody and being able to see your kids, why the hell are you killing them?
He didn't care.
So that's where I'm getting with the, like, I think he knew what he was doing was wrong. So there wasn't some psychological reason. Like, he didn't have schizophrenia where he didn't know what was going on. So I think it was just he didn't care.
Yeah.
He wanted what he wanted, and these things were in his way.
Yep.
And he was using every avenue to get sympathy, and that, like, mentioning, well, I was afraid I would lose custody and I really cared, and all of these things, so that people felt for him and not her. Another thing, when he first went in, he's like, oh, I killed her after she killed the kids. So like, he couldn't even like give her that dignity to not throw her under for killing her kids, which, I mean, as a mother, like, that would be the worst thing you could say I did, is kill my
Yes.
kids.
Yep.
Because there's no way on this earth that you would, like, that I would ever do that. And so for him to say that about her was just like, you kicked her, and then you kicked her while she was down, and she had
Yeah.
no way of fighting back on that. And then I can't remember if it was in this documentary or something that I read, but then like, there was a comment that he made that like, he was so pissed off at her that he buried her and put the kids in a different place so that she couldn't be near them even in death. And so that makes me think that there was maybe something that he was pissed off about, like, more than just her being a little controlling or a little clingy. Because why do you got to do that? What made you so pissed off that you resorted to separating them? I don't have enough bad things to say about this guy.
Yeah. He still got it too good, being able to live out his life in prison.
And I don't, well, I kind of understand that. I think it's too good, but I understand her parents' point on that, is that he chose to take a life and they didn't want to be a part of a choice to take a life. I get that. I don't know. I wish sometimes we could have a justice system that lets you like torture people a little bit.
He deserved it.
Because there are people like that, and like Ted Bundy and those ones, that just deserve a little more than just sitting in a cell
Yeah.
for the rest of their lives.
I mean, God. It's like another interesting thing about this is Shanann, like, she had so much footage of the kids and stuff. And them being 3 and 4, my son's 4 years old. So I'm like sitting there thinking, I'm just like, oh my God, like imagining Vincent sitting in the backseat of a car with like a sibling 1 year younger than him, and they're just holding each other. And he would definitely know something was up, but he would be like
Yeah.
fucking scared and not know what to do. And I was just I could not handle the end of the document. I was just bawling my eyes out. Like this was just so disturbing. And when the judge said, out of all of the like thousands, over 1,000 cases that he had seen, that
Mhm.
this was the most like just evil, like disgusting thing that he had ever seen. Like it was awful. It just made me sick.
Another part that made me like just take a step back was how the police were acting with him. Like it seemed like they were very compassionate to him and like rubbing his shoulder and like
Mm,
patting
you,
his back. And I'm
yeah,
like, dude, like
yeah.
this fucker just admitted to killing his kids. Like, no. Like I would like this is probably why I'm never going to be a cop because I'd probably just like slap the back of his head like you fucker. I don't like I cannot like compartmentalize that way. Like I'm a really great compartmentalizer, but like I would not be able to hold it and not just like be sneering at this guy who just confessed to murdering his wife and kids.
I know the part you're talking about. I interpreted it kind of a different way. I thought they were just being very patronizing and like trying to be buddy buddy to make him open up more, like it was all an act.
No, I knew why, but like I personally could not do that. Like I know that they were trying to get him to let his guard down so that they could get the answers they needed.
The
But like
polygraph lady.
I could not I could not do that. I could not be like, "Oh yeah, like it's so great that you're telling us the truth now." Like no, I'd be like, "Fucker, spill it or I'm punching you in
I
the
want to
face."
shoot you right now. Yeah.
like
Oh my
like there
God.
would be no like patronizing for me. I'd be like, "I am going to murder you. How about that? Does that sound like a good plan?"
This guy. What I liked about this documentary was they had so much just irrefutable evidence everywhere. Everything from the neighbors to like everyone was just like, that neighbor was like, dude, something is off with him. Like he does not act this way. Like he did something.
And that's the very beginning of the documentary, and I see that all the time in the shows that I watch. And as you guys know, I love watching my crime, murder, whatevers. um but in a lot of them, that's their first inclination that something's wrong, is they're not acting right. And it, like, I roll my eyes every single time because I know if I were ever in that situation, I would be the person that's not acting right and probably murdered somebody, which I would never murder somebody. So I would, like, in my case, it would be wrong. But I can compartmentalize. And I would probably be in the back of my mind thinking, okay, what do we need to do instead of acting sad or like depressed or like crying or whatever? I'd be like timeline, like when did this person go missing? Let's try and find them, like whatever, to try and like fix the situation. And so I would be that person that's not acting right and trying to do it. So like I kind of eye rolled a little bit on that. Like, oh great, they're gonna take that as he definitely did it, not search for anything else, and boom, done.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They gave him the benefit of the doubt until he just like drove his bus off the cliff. So I kind of hardcore eye rolled there because that's the first thing everybody says is, oh, they didn't cry or they seemed like they didn't care or whatever. And it's
Yeah, because
always
people go
somebody
through,
acting.
yeah, because
Everybody
people
goes
just,
through it different.
yes. But the thing with him was he was
He was so
so
different than his
eager.
normal.
Yes, but he was like eager. And it wasn't eager to find his wife, eager to find his children, his language of, I hope they come back. He was eager to carry on with his life with Nicole.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
they were dead to him, literally, in his mind. He was
He just wanted
already
to move
focused
on.
on his ego and his life with Nicole. And that's like him being antsy and like offering up all this information and like, oh, should I go
Mhm.
down this way that she normally drives? Like, should I check out these two routes that I know, Shanann would take? And like, it was all just so, it was not authentic at all. It was purely
Mm-mm.
this eagerness to move on with his life.
There wasn't a whole lot in any of the footage that you saw him being like authentic, like ever.
No,
Like
no.
even in his confessions, I don't think he was authentic in that. He
He
was
didn't
saying
even
like
cry. Did he?
No, like he was saying, like, I hope that they believe me. I hope that they don't think I'm a bad person. Like, dude, you just fucking murdered your family. Yes, they think you're a bad person. Like, I don't get what you think that they can think otherwise.
Yeah, he's sitting in court and they're recounting all this, and the judge is saying this stuff to him, and he's not even shedding a tear. He's just sitting there. Like in his mind, he's happy because he gets to have his life. He still gets to live.
Another thing that irritates me, and this is something that happens a lot with killers and criminals and whatnot, is the like groupie effect. Like I'm sure, and this was actually mentioned in the documentary too, because there were a whole bunch of people like just railing on Shanann, like she
Yeah.
deserved to be murdered, and like social like attacking her family because somehow they believe Chris was in the right to kill his wife and kids. Like again, I can see like not see this, but I can understand a little bit more that take if he'd only killed his wife. But he fucking murdered two innocent little children, and somehow you're still trying to blame that all on Shanann being clingy. Like, no, that doesn't explain why he murdered the two little kids that weren't clingy,
Yeah.
that just loved their dad. Like, sorry, no, that like doesn't add up. But anyway, so they were like hounding her family about it.
No, they were trying to.
And they're
What's
just like
that?
little groupies because they thought he was cute. And like that happens so often. Like even like the Night Stalker in California, who is ugly as fuck, Richard Ramirez,
Mm,
had groupies in court wanting him to sleep with them and like writing him. And like, I don't understand. Like, he's a
yeah.
fucking murderer. Like, I don't understand the logic of groupies of serial killers.
Yeah. With what was that case where the mother like killed her kids in the car? Casey, God, what was her name? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Casey Anthony
Casey Anthony. Yeah. I feel
in
like they were
Florida.
trying to treat Shanann like that, like it was that kind of case. Like she just didn't want to be a mom anymore and just wanted to off her kids.
Okay,
When,
that would be okay if she's the one who offed her kids, but he admitted to it. So, like,
yeah,
you can't make that
I
argument if
wish,
she didn't offer kids.
yeah. I want to read up on more. I'm just like, he's such an interesting head case. Just didn't have any remorse for anything, was purely just only caring about himself throughout all of it. And it's just like, what is that? Like, what kind of personality is that?
He did for a second. I saw maybe a little remorse when he was talking about when he killed Bella, I think it was. And he heard her saying, Daddy, no. And he said that that's
Yeah.
going to haunt him for the rest of his life. I'm like, dude, it should, which is one of the reasons, like, if it does actually haunt him, that I think I hope he lives a very long life with that haunting the crap out of him. I hope that that does.
Was it Bella who walked in on him after he had strangled
I don't know.
Shanann? Because remember, one of them woke up from all the noise and
Mm-hmm.
like that's just
And
such a
again, he
horrible.
he thought that they didn't know what was going on or that mommy wasn't okay. Sorry,
But
4 year
children
olds
know.
are small, yes, but they are capable of putting two
They
and two
know.
together, especially something big like that.
Yeah. This whole thing just made my skin crawl, did not make me feel good. I was just like, I was just like, why does Tara want to do this episode? It is so fucked up, and I need a hug or something. I'm gonna go hug Vincent.
I like these A because he got caught. He
Yeah,
is facing punishment. Whether we agree with the punishment, at least he's facing a punishment. But I just like to like I don't know, get into the minds of somebody who is capable of doing that. Like why? How? Like how do you justify this?
yeah. I just he didn't care. That's the thing. Like he the $1,800 bill at the restaurant or whatever. Like he just didn't care. He wasn't even
Was
like
it
trying to hide
1800?
it. It was,
Or was
yeah.
it like 100 and something?
No. I thought it was 18.
Because she was like saying, his would have been like 30 to 40.
Yeah. But it seemed like he had been doing this for a while, just charging whatever, and getting cash and all this stuff.
And that's what makes me think that maybe she was a little clingier because she saw things like that are like very red flaggy. Like,
Yeah.
A, if your husband all of a sudden starts working out with no like preamble to like there's a reason in your life that he
And
should
she was
be,
like, he hasn't slept with me in 5 weeks. He hasn't touched me, like, won't sleep with me. Yeah,
those
there's
are
a reason.
huge red flags. That something else is going on.
It's just like, ah, like he could have just asked for a fucking divorce. So what if she keeps the house and gets alimony and child support? If you love your children, like, fine.
Make it work. But
Yeah.
that goes the other way too. Like I've seen so many stories of women using the children as weapons. And so, I mean, again, in a divorce situation, I could feel sympathy for him, afraid that he's going to lose his kid or his kids. Like, I can feel that because there are so many cases where women do use children against the dads that care. Like, they can't use them against the dads who don't care because they don't care.
Yeah.
Like him, he didn't
It's
give a shit, actually. So she wasn't
yeah.
going to be able to use them against him. But like the ones who do care, like women use them sometimes. And it's just an unfortunate situation all around. But he just didn't give a shit.
I wonder if she threatened to like tell his family and her family and everyone, what she had
Or
found
his
out about
boss,
him.
like
Because
maybe.
yeah,
Because I bet
something
that there
like
was
that,
like,
it's the public shame with the narcissist. It's like the public shame. That's what hits them the most. Like that's what they absolutely cannot handle, and what enrages them is when they lose that kind of public image, that perception of themselves that they put out in front of everybody. And so I wonder if like in their spat if something like that happened, but it's just I don't know. Like you'll never understand the why, but I agree with you. That's why I like this particular documentary because it showed the closure on what happened. Yep.
well, and it shows a situation that is unfortunately way too common and needs a lot more light on it. And again, I preface this episode with you see a lot of light on, middle class white women, but there are so many situations like this where, the woman either didn't see the red flags or there were no red flags. And then all of a sudden she's dead. Or there were lots of them and she tried to get help. And for whatever reason, the help wasn't available or nobody believed her, which is probably more likely. Um, and it's just so unfortunate. And a lot of times they can't get out because there's something keeping them there, like the kids. If they run away with the kids, like, whatever, or money or support or any number of things. And it's too common and so unfortunate
Yeah.
for
It's
everybody.
just yeah, their dynamic between Shanann and Chris, like this is so many relationships out there, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
Shanann wasn't happy. Like, what wife and mom wants to be at home, like knowing that her husband is not answering her messages because he's out fucking someone, or just being an asshole, or
Or
whatever. You
spending
know what I
their
mean?
hard-earned
Yeah,
money on some other
yeah,
woman.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's just like she could have just as easily asked for a divorce because she obviously wasn't happy, but like she was not ready to let that relationship go. She was like so focused. It seems like she was so focused on the good times when things were really, really good, how he was so into her in the beginning. She kept bringing that up over and over when she was talking to her friends. Like, he used to do this and that. And she just wasn't ready to let it go. And he obviously had let it go some time ago. And it's
Yeah.
just but this is so many relationships. But one where just the dynamic and the particular chemistry between two people is just very explosive.
Yeah. I am going to leave my comments off on something that played at the very end of the episode or the documentary, which is in America, 3 women are killed by current or ex-partners every day. Like I said, it's
I believe it.
way too common. And it's way more common in the way of the women are being killed. But it does happen where women kill men, obviously. But it's just way too common. And as I mentioned, October was Domestic Violence Month. And so we are recording this just right outside of October. But it's just one of those things that should be on everybody's minds.
No, that's such an important stat to call out because so my work at the Sexual Assault Center, I mean, obviously Domestic Violence Awareness Month is big for us too at the center, but I was just 2 weeks ago having a conversation with a woman who's kind of like a mentor for me in the fundraising world, and she got into nonprofit and particularly like being a donor for domestic assault and sexual assault centers and stuff because her college roommate was murdered by her boyfriend. And then she has 3 friends who were murdered by men who were supposedly like in love with, these people. So she lost 3 friends to murder. And I just like I can't imagine. But that's yeah, it just puts it into perspective about how common it is. But the stat that was like it's typically the male that murders the wife and children, that's like
Yeah.
ugh.
Family annihilators are almost always men. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it just I don't even know how to lift this up.
Yeah. I think the only way we can lift this up is there are people out there. If you are in a relationship where it's going south or whatever, get help. There are organizations. I know like True North here in Columbia does that. Like you said, your work deals with that too. So there are ways, and I just hope that everybody takes advantage of those who are in a situation like that.
Yeah, get help, get support, just walk out, like leave, just like don't let it be a ticking time bomb, because you never know what'll happen.
And you don't, if you have kids, you don't know what kind of damage they're going to do to those kids. And that was a really big thing for me in my first marriage, where like that was my line. That was my line in the sand. Like if I thought that there was going to be harm to any child, like I'm done. Sorry. Bye.
Yeah.
So but yeah, that's still a downer, but we will put some links to some of these organizations that we know of. So if you are out there listening to this at any point in time and need some of those, I'm sure that they can direct you to an office where you live. So there's our little bit of an upbeat, but not much.
Oh, humans.
Yeah. It just takes all of the faith you have in humanity that something like this happened.
Yeah.
And happens very commonly.
Yeah. I don't know. I recommend people to just go watch it. I was very hesitant to watch it, but Tara kept talking about it, and I'm glad I watched it because it always serves to put things into perspective, like the bigger picture, So, highly recommend people go watch it.
And like we said, or well, what I said in our like kind of intros to our podcast, I always want to learn. I always want to grow, and sometimes it's hard, but getting those big pictures, getting knowledge of what people are like sometimes, even the bad, living in a world that's not perfect, but you can make it just a little bit better somehow.
Just a little bit. Yeah, it matters. All right. Well, thank you for joining us tonight.
Hopefully you have a really good night after this downer of an episode. And hopefully you watch it and learn something.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.